All right, well, so welcome everyone. This is a 3 steps demo webinar. It is a different style of webinar and a different format than you may be used to. It's designed to be very short and to give you a recipe of steps you can take with some click and download tools to try out a new sort of formula of getting something done and addressing a really critical need in your environment. That is the goal today, is to give you a clickable recipe of building a self-serve media archive, which sounds kind of ambitious, but it's really easy. And Mark and I are going to take you right through it. So your presenters today, the other voice you hear is Dr. Mark Batchkus. Hello, sir.
Hello, Skip. I'm calling in from Munich, Germany, and thank you for having me.
Excellent. I'm Skip Levins, a product marketing director at Backblaze Cloud Storage, and that's this voice you hear. So let's jump in. The problem we want to address and help you address today is a really common one, especially in a creative environment, or really any environment where you create something and you need to save all that valuable content or server backups or customer project files, that sort of thing. It all has to be saved, and it's so easy for it to get disorganized. Another scenario is you might come into an environment and you ask how customer project files are saved and stored, and they say, oh yeah, we totally do that. And they open up a cabinet that looks kind of like this slide. It's like, oh, here's a bunch of tapes, there's a bunch of disks, there's disks in drawers, that sort of thing. And we all know that that's not a real backup, and that's not a real archive, and it's not something you can access really easily. And so that is the goal of today's session. We're going to show you how to take all of this content, get it organized in a way that's very easy, it's very cost effective, and I think you'll like it quite a bit. You can really do this. We carve it up into 3 different steps. They're really simple. You collect what you need from Backblaze, collect what you need from Archiware, configure the 2, and you're off to archiving. It's really straightforward. So let's jump in. So with the first step, let's show you how to gather all the tools and what you'll need. The cloud storage piece is from Backblaze. So just go to backblaze.com B2. And it's as simple as clicking the blue sign up button. Backblaze is the simplest cloud storage you'll ever use. And the reason Backblaze is really ideal storage for your archives is that it's extremely low cost, but is fully featured and very robust cloud storage, meaning that everything you archive to Backblaze is exactly the same when you pull it back, which so it's stored in erasure code protected object storage format. It's very inexpensive, and it scales, and everything you put in there, even if it grows to terabytes, we have customers in the petabyte range, every single file, everything you archive there is immediately retrievable. You don't have to wait while it gets restored somewhere for you. And it all works beautifully with Archiware. So to sign up for Backblaze, go ahead and click in, sign up. A good common practice here is if you're using B2 Cloud Storage for your team, it's very common to use an admin or role-based email address here, such as studio admin or studio archivist at yourcompanyname.com. And voila, you are then presented with this page, which is how you manage everything. It's not complex at all. It's at any time you log into your Backblaze account with that same email address and password, and you uncover a couple of key pieces that you'll need, your account ID and key, and then you create what's called a bucket. And buckets you can think of very similar to a folder that holds this object storage content. And here again, it's very good to make them role-based or functional-based. So in this case, I've created one called Archiware-main archive, and that will be the target for everything I'm going to archive in my facility. Very, very simple.
The next step is you go to archiware.com, and we have on our homepage the suite download. You can download the full version of Archiware P5, and it gives you one installer package as is shown here, which contains all the 4 modules: P5 Synchronize, P5 Backup, P5 Backup to Go, and P5 Archive. That's the one that we are using here. Once you installed Archiware P5, the browser opens automatically, and in P5, in the browser interface, you see the license manager, and the license manager gives you in the lower right-hand corner the Get Trial License button that you click on. Next thing is you put in the license that you receive and apply this license so that immediately the icons of the individual modules will be colored and available to you.
And it's really that easy. It's something that can be done in minutes. You can sign up for a B2 account and not even have to enter a credit card, to try it out. You can download and install Archiware, the entire suite, and that's really it for gathering tools. So now let's configure the 2 tools to work together.
So within Archiware P5, the first thing is on the left column, you hit Cloud Service, and then the interface changes and gives you this button here, Add Cloud Storage. And once you hit that button, it gives you the interface of the Cloud Wizard, as we call it. In step 1, you select Backblaze B2 as the new cloud storage. Then there are steps that you can leave on default for right now. There's a local storage directory that we need to actually stage the data that you're going to transfer to the cloud. And you can press apply here in the lower right-hand corner. And this gives you the summary and the option to enter the credentials for B2. So your account ID, application key, and bucket name. And you can immediately in this interface test the connection if that's valid and working from your side. And once this is done, successfully connected to service, you can press OK, and this gives you the foundation actually to archive your media to this target storage.
Perfect. So it really is that simple, and you've now essentially have an unlimited target to archive everything you have on site. And now, of course, Archiware is extremely capable software. It has so many functions, and but if you follow the screens and follow these steps, you too will be able to start archiving your local content up to the cloud. So so this is the fun bit, Mark, which is building an archive now that all the pieces work.
Yes, so in P5, in the left column, you go to manual archiving, and this already allows you to select files from your local file system or from a file system that's mounted to your machine. And you pick files there. Once you press the Send to Archive button, then the archive process starts, and the next step is to actually browse and review your archive. When you want to do that, you go in the top interface section to the Restore button, and this allows you to browse through all the files, see the previews and thumbnails. By the way, to create those, FFmpeg and ImageMagick needs to be installed on the machine, but that's also a pretty straightforward process. And you see below the single asset on the right-hand side, you see description, and there could be additional metadata fields that you define. Important step here to build your own individual metadata schema, because this forms the key for later access to the archive when you don't remember a file name, or maybe you don't remember the project name, but you still want to find a specific media, still image or clip or file, and then you can search for whatever criteria is important to your production. Could be location, could be customer name, could be any form of ID, products involved, producers, whatever it is that you can have here as additional metadata fields. And you see the restore button here, restore to, and the lower portion of the interface to the left. So you just select files later on, press restore to, and you get them back.
Perfect. So it's I know that many facilities that are doing this step, if they don't have an easy to use sort of roadmap to how to get this done, it can all seem pretty overwhelming. But the simple part is you get everything important that's in your facility that you want archived, add it using the steps Dr. Mark showed you, and those are now archived off to cloud storage, and they're very easily retrievable if you ever need them immediately, right?
Yes, and not only retrievable, but also searchable and browsable. I think that's an important part. If everybody in your organization or production has access to this archive catalog, then it's extremely easy to find files, to check if they are available, to see what you produced for a returning customer, to check on the contents of a specific production folder or whatever it is, because you have this kind of single source of truth. Everything that you ever completed gets put in the archive, so you have this single point of reference, and that makes it extremely easy and reliable to later on track down something and restore it.
Perfect. And this is something that Mark, you talk about quite a bit, which is getting that peace of mind, not having to worry about, is my backup system working? It's kind of like hiring someone full time to make sure that stuff you put in a certain folder, all of your project files are always backed up, always moved safely off to the cloud, and you sleep better.
Yes, of course, that's a big advantage. So with the archive, it's actually about the completed files, whereas, of course, P5 Backup, the backup tool, also works with B2 as cloud storage and would be able to do a routine, rotating, scheduled automatic backup of the files that you're still using in production, whereas the files we are archiving are usually files that you completed and don't need on your production storage anymore, so you can free up space immediately. And that's another advantage of the archive mechanism as such, that you save investment in storage expansion and also have an easier overview and insight into your files, because the number of files is reduced and limited, and everything that's been done and doesn't need to be staying there anymore is moved over to the archive and stays there as in the single point of reference.
Perfect. And the best part is it's immediately available, if you need it in a hurry, and this could really cut down on new production time and that sort of thing. So with those three basic steps, I think people have the roadmap to go ahead and install this stuff and try it by following along and trying everything out. There's really nothing you can harm. It's it's a very nice way to trial getting this part of your production environment solved and reliable. And again, there's no upfront cost, and it's a really nice way to archive and protect all those assets. So to wrap up, before we get to Q&A, I just want to point out that Backblaze B2 is very inexpensive, it's very highly reliable, and it's really become the go-to cloud storage for creatives, whether it's for preserving very high resolution master files, archiving, or just general application storage that sits catching everything that your workflow produces. It's a phenomenal, very open and transparent pricing model, and is a really good choice for archive storage. And Archiware, of course, I don't want to speak for Mark, but so many customers love it and use it so much because it is both easy to use but extremely powerful, and it does help give you that that notion that you can set your archiving and even backup and sync plans in place and have that part of your life solved.
Yeah, and maybe I should mention that we have sold more than 15,000 licenses worldwide. So it's used in a lot of industries, a lot of media entertainment, but also in other fields, and thousands of businesses are relying on it. So Archiware P5 is
Absolutely.
a software suite that's extremely easy to use because it's all browser-based and still very powerful and can grow into the petabytes with your needs, and still keeps the same simplicity and helps you to reliably archive your footage and your precious data to a permanent cloud-based archive with an incredibly easy to use and helpful catalog, along with your individual metadata schema that you can build for yourself. And that you can see on this image here. You see below the single asset on the right-hand side, you see an example of a customized metadata schema with description, location, editor, customer, product, camera, type, lens type, dimensions, ID number, whatever it is. You can put here as many fields as you want or as are reasonable and important to your production to later on be searchable to retrieve files from the archive.
So I think it's time for Q&A, but while we're gathering a few questions, just want to point out that there's tons of information at archiware.com, exceptional release notes, video tutorials, wonderful documentation at Archiware, and similarly over at backblaze.com/b2, lots of information, articles, and we've curated a few of these. Mark has authored a popular blog post on the Backblaze site that goes in that covers many of these details, and that link will be on the PDF notes. And Dr. Mark has written a book that's carried in the Apple iBook store called Data Management, Backup, and Archive for Media Professionals. That is a very nice read. And I have links to a couple more articles that give you some more best practices and food for thought when you're putting these together. So with that, Mark, do we have a few questions that have come up?
Yes, maybe you want to start?
Oh, okay. Hang on one second. Let me click into. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So the first question is a natural one, probably, looking at that screen, and that is does Archiware P5 mean that does it replace my media asset manager?
Oh, yeah, interesting question, since we emphasize this MAM functionality so much. It does not, because we catalog only the files that you offline, that you send over to B2 storage in this case. And we don't know, Archiware P5 does not know about your online storage, your production storage, the files that you have there. Whereas a MAM has insight and knowledge about both areas, the offline and the online storage, and gives you additional tools for your workflow to tie into transcoding suites and so on, which we don't. So we are this, as we like to call it, the mini offline MAM. We have some MAM functionality that you saw, so customizable metadata fields. We generate proxy clips. We show you media thumbnails, and you can browse and search the catalog and do also combined searches for several criteria. But this is the limitation of it. It's only has insight about the offline and archived media.
Perfect.
I see another question here that I would like to take because it's geared towards P5. Do backup, sync, and archive modules all come with the same install? Yes, there is one installer package and only one installer package for your specific platform, so being it Mac, Windows, or Linux, or we also are running on some NAS devices, so you can install us and switch on the individual modules by licensing them. So the trial license that we showed here activates all of them, and later on you decide if you want to only use the archive module or archive and backup or archive, backup, and sync, or whatever makes most sense in your environment.
I think you haven't found the limit of how many files can be managed and tracked through Archiware, have you?
No, we actually have customers. We had customers already since some years hitting more than 1 billion files in their archive catalog. So that's quite an impressive number.
That is.
There is another question here about the tools I mentioned being necessary to get the previews, but the audio seemed to have dropped out. So it's actually FFmpeg for transcoding video clips to preview or proxy clips in the archive catalog, and it's ImageMagick for any still images or vector images or some graphical files that you want to have previewed. It's not necessary to run them. So if you just download the trial and start it in 2 or 3 minutes, then you can do so. And there are lots of customers who actually don't need previews and proxies, depending on their workflow, depending on the files that they're using. So if you want to use proxies and previews like we saw here on the screenshots, then those are the 2 tools that are necessary.
Yeah, and I would just add that it is the Brew package manager on Mac OS works wonderfully well. Brew install ImageMagick, Brew install FFmpeg, and then it's a matter of making sure that Archiware has the right binary pass, and that's literally it. So next time you ingest something, it will automatically create the proxies for you. It's really pretty incredible piece of software.
Do we have another question?
I think that's let's see. So this other question was about scaling, and I think you addressed that one. That you can Archiware is available to install on your own server, which can be a Mac system, a Windows machine, a server in the rack. It could even be it's available also on some NAS devices, Synology and QNAP. I know both have you can. And then you could then, as you already said, take that very same license if you start on one of those devices, and as you grow and say move it, say to a dedicated server, same license works. So that's, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I see another question here. Can you backup, sync, or archive to the same Backblaze account? Would you need to set up different buckets? Yes, different buckets would make a lot of sense especially for backup and archive, because backup is a rotating service that overrides itself after you reach the specified retention time that you put in. So you can say, I want to be able to go back, whatever it is, 60 days or 3 months or something. And after this time is reached, so 60 days plus 1 day, we recycle the storage that was used for backup and write a new backup on the same storage. So it would make a lot of sense to have that in a separate bucket and one permanent bucket for archive. Synchronize, by the way, is not working with B2 or any cloud service because Synchronize is disk-to-disk only. It's used mainly to clone or mirror SAN systems or large production storage systems for data availability. There's one more question here in the panel that I see that would be for you, Skip. Is it the same cost to upload and download to Backblaze?
Putting content into Backblaze is done at no charge, and there are some egress charges that are all spelled out very openly and transparently on those links provided.
Mm-hmm. Another question here, they come pouring in one after the other. So is it best practice to automatically archive on ingest? Interesting question. There are some options here for an archive workflow. We actually see more and more people doing an ingest archive because they have cameras that they use at maximum resolution, could be 4K, 6K, 8K or something like that. And they don't even have enough online or disk storage to keep all those files. So some people archive actually at the beginning on low-cost tape or have that locally available. You could also archive that, of course, to any other device. The thing is that you create then an archive catalog of everything that you captured, whereas the archive, as we mentioned it here in this workshop, is to have an archive catalog of everything that you completed and kept. So those are two different perspectives. An ingest archive keeps everything that you ingest in a catalog, which might or might not be useful for a specific production. It might be useful during production. But the long-term permanent archive probably for most people makes most sense to have only the completed media that you actually kept for production. So those are two different perspectives, but you can use both, and we actually have customers having both types of archive at the same time. Yes,
Great.
I think that was it from the questions panel as far as I can see. So,
okay, and just to add a little more color to that last question, to give you an example of pricing, Backblaze is a half a penny a gigabyte to store content, and only a penny a gigabyte when you need to download it. And there's no asterisk, no hidden, you have to pay for 3 months in advance kind of thing. It's really extremely simple and straightforward pricing, and a really good fit for a tool like Archiware.
yes, and we work together quite well, and we're happy to help you to move your files to the cloud if that is your goal. So with that, I think all the participants will receive the PDF with the mentioned links, and you can use as a playbook and guide to follow through with the steps that we laid out. And so thank you for participating.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And Mark, always great to talk to you. And I hope this was helpful. And I would look forward to your feedback.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Okay. Cheers. Thank you all.